Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And as we've done in the past, sometimes we focus a program on women. But you know what? Men, y'all need to listen because you have women in your lives that you need to be supporting with this information. So please join me in welcoming Lin Eleoff to our program today. Welcome, Lin.
Deb, thank you so much for having me. I've been excited to talk to you.
Great. You know, it's going to be so much fun. And so let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we will jump into this.
Okay.
So Lin Eleoff is a lawyer turned entrepreneur and mind, body, business transformation coach. Her work is based on brain science, transformational psychology, and how the subconscious mind seems to sabotage our best laid plans. Lin loves helping her clients find the elusive answer to this mind-boggling question: if I'm so smart, why can't I figure this out? So again, Lin, welcome.
Thank you, Deb.
Great. Well, let's kind of go back a bit. I always love finding out how my guests came to do what it is that they do, because you've taken a little bit of a circuitous route. So tell us how you discovered that this is now your passion in life.
Well, I think I started coaching when I was 6.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it has really been personal development, self-development, or what I call self-optimization has really been one of my key values. And it really, it started when, listen to this, Deb, this is crazy. I was in college and I had to fill a slot in my curriculum. And I wanted it so that I could have Fridays off. I was at the point.
Sounds good. Yeah.
So the only course left that would fit into my grand scheme was a theology course on yoga. And I thought, this will be a breeze.
Yeah,
yoga,
sounds interesting. Right.
Well, it was the most fascinating course because it really got into the whole theology of yoga. This wasn't about, poses or anything like that. This was the philosophy and the deeper meaning. And that hooked me. It was probably one of my top 3 favorite classes when I was in college. And that put me on a trajectory. It's funny how, you'd never see it coming, but had I not taken that course, we might not even be talking right now, right? It's crazy. So that led me in a direction where this became something that was truly very important to me. I went into my first career out of college was in radio and television. And so that led me to all kinds of wonderful experiences. But what I always wanted, or at least what I always thought I wanted, was to go to law school. But my career in radio and television was, I was very successful. So it was kind of like that went on the back burner until I finally had an opportunity to do that. I went to law school, loved law school, but I didn't want to be a lawyer sitting in an office somewhere. Billable hours. I mean,
just doing paperwork.
Right? But the law intrigued me, and thinking like a lawyer. And I found that kind of played into my natural instinct to ask people questions, which was what made me really good at reporting. To make a long story short, I became a coach because it created it was an opportunity for me to bring it all together. My own growth, I call them AFGOs. It was another freaking growth opportunity for me personally. And then I realized that I needed to talk to women about this. And there are 2 avenues that I have found to my own personal growth. Starting my own business. Oh my goodness, that was just, I call that an AFGO of epic proportion. And And then also our bodies and making peace with our
Mhm.
bodies. And I've had my own journey in that regard. And I have found that there are rarely women that I have met who don't struggle somewhere along the way with making peace with their bodies.
Right.
Usually it's a struggle. And
Mhm.
so I found that, whether you're starting a business or you're struggling to make peace with your body, it's the same kind of process
Right. Right.
inside of
It's those
you.
little voices in your head.
That's
Mhm.
right. That's right.
Mhm.
They all sound the same, whether
Mhm.
it's like, don't eat that, or you don't do a Facebook Live.
Mhm.
I can't do that. That's
Mhm.
too hard. This is
Mhm.
all that stuff comes up. And so it all for me comes down to one common thing. It's like, who do I want to be
Mhm.
as a woman? No
Right.
matter what I do,
Mhm.
whether I'm wearing my mom hat or my entrepreneur hat, like,
Mhm.
what is the best version of myself? Like,
Mhm.
what, excuse me, what does she look like?
Mhm.
And that is something that I ask myself all the time. And that's how I work with my clients, because we think that it's the diet's fault, or we
Right.
think it's our business's fault, or we
Mhm.
think it's our bank account's fault. And really, all of that is just a reflection of what's going on
Mhm.
inside of us.
Right.
So once we attend to that,
Mhm.
then everything else on the outside
Mhm.
starts to change.
Right. And it's those little voices in our head. And,
Yes.
and I'm sure men have them too. I mean, this certainly isn't exclusive to women, but to me, it seems like the little voices in women's heads are not little voices. They're big voices, and they tend to be more negative. The you can't do it, you're too stupid, and whatever it is. And so many times those started with a real voice, somebody saying something to us when we're younger, or even when we're not so young, where somebody, they do the, I can't believe she's wearing that.
Mhm.
And you hear that, and then you're thinking, oh my gosh, is it, all these various things, or I can't believe she's starting her own business, and of course, then it does go back to when we're little kids, and a teacher, a parent, somebody says, no, 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 you can't do that. And it does tend to be the negative, the can't, you shouldn't, all of those various things.
Absolutely. I think so here's my theory. I think it's a pretty good one. I think that we are all born, men, women, little,
Hmm.
as babies, boys, girls, we
Hmm.
are all born with our dignity intact. Like,
Right.
we think we're hot stuff.
Right. Right.
Look at
Yeah, look at
babies.
any 3-year-old. They think they're the greatest thing in the world, right?
Right? And they don't play games. They
Mhm.
don't use sarcasm. They don't
Right.
try to get
Mhm.
things like, they just want what they want. And
Mhm.
when they're happy, they're happy.
Right.
And so they're not trying to maneuver
Mhm.
anything. They're authentic and genuine, and their dignity is intact.
Right.
And then something happens, like what you say. Somebody says something.
Mhm.
And for me, for other little girls, oftentimes it's about how they look.
Right.
Diet
Mhm.
culture played
Mhm.
a number on us in the Western world, and
Mhm.
it was often about how she looks, or
Mhm.
what her comment about your body. And then
Right.
as a little girl, you're like, wait a minute, I thought I was
Mhm.
amazing
Right.
until somebody
Mhm.
had that opinion
Mhm.
about me.
Mhm.
And that's where we go down
Mhm.
it's a rite of passage.
Mhm.
I always say it's like, we losing our teeth is a rite of passage, but our
Mhm.
teeth automatically grow back,
Right.
but we don't automatically
Mhm.
get our dignity
Mhm.
back. That's on us, and that's our job. And I think, whether you're a man or a woman, that
Mhm.
is our purpose in life, is to get our dignity back by
Mhm.
really understanding who we are,
Mhm.
the essence of who we
Mhm.
are. And then when we can own that, I believe we can have everything
Mhm.
we want. And a
Right.
lot of people will say, oh, Lynn, I don't know, but we have, oh yes, you
Mhm.
can have everything you want,
Mhm.
but you must align yourself back to what you knew
Mhm.
as a little girl or a
Mhm.
little boy,
Right.
about who you are and the place that you take up in
Mhm.
the world, your rightful place in this
Mhm.
world, and the voice that you have the right to use.
Mhm. Right. And usually until you're 3 or so, and it depends, you're the center of your parents' universe.
Yeah.
And, and now I'm an only child, so I'm always the center of my parents'
Lucky
universe.
you.
But once you start getting a little bit older, then you realize they have other interests. They do, they do other things, and you don't need nearly so much care. So, you're not the true center. They are doing other things, and so, maybe that's where this whole thing starts to go. It's like, well, wait a minute. What do you mean I'm not the most important thing anymore?
Right. Well, yes, and if it's not your parents, and we always like to blame our parents, but
Mhm.
no parents are perfect. I have four
Right.
children. I know I've messed things up along
Mhm.
the way, but it could be just a very innocent comment
Mhm. Right.
from a friend of the family
Mhm.
or your kindergarten teacher,
Mhm.
which happened to me. I
Right.
remember what my
Mhm.
kindergarten teacher said, and so there are these things along the way that
Mhm.
happen that unless we have someone who is telling us and teaching us and
Mhm.
mentoring us, like, no, those opinions belong
Mhm.
to them.
Mhm.
That's
Right.
their business. That's
Mhm.
more about them than it is about
Mhm.
you. But we certainly don't do that. So as
Mhm.
children, we grow up with a mistaken identity
Mhm.
that somehow we're flawed or we're
Mhm.
broken or there's something wrong with us. And
Right.
then we turn to external things
Mhm.
to feel better, whether
Right.
it's food or
Mhm.
spending or gambling or
Mhm.
drinking, whatever it is.
Mhm.
We look to feel better.
Right.
Basically, that's it. That's what
Right.
we want.
Right. And so many times those comments that were made to us were well-meaning,
Oh yeah,
right?
of course they were. Yeah.
And I mean, it's not until you get a little bit older and, and the girls are snarky at each other. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how women, oh, holy schmoly, we get real snarky at each other, right? Or boys. I mean, that's where the cruel comments start coming in. But
Yeah.
yeah, many times those things were well-meaning. That, wouldn't you feel better if you lost 10 pounds?
Yes. You have
Or,
such a pretty face.
right.
Your
Yeah.
face is so pretty.
Mhm. Right. And so they mean well, but in many cases it's a reflection of themselves. I mean, they're thinking they're overweight or, all of those various things, but then we do take it to heart, and to our soul, and we start dieting. We're going to talk about your book, but in your book you talked about the fact that your first diet was when you were nine
Nine.
9 years old.
9 years old with my little girlfriend. We were going swimming for the day and we were reading some magazines. We
Hmm.
were stick thin. I mean, we were just like little
Right.
girls
Hmm.
without an ounce of extra flesh
Hmm.
on our bodies. And we thought, whoa, we better not eat.
Hmm.
That was,
Right.
I remember
Hmm.
thinking,
Hmm.
better not eat. It
Hmm.
wasn't like we should go on a diet or we should eat
No.
less or
Hmm.
we shouldn't eat that kind of food. It was like, we shouldn't eat
Hmm.
because that's how we interpreted with our child,
Hmm.
intellect. That's what these magazines were telling
Right.
us. Like,
Hmm.
attractive women don't
Hmm.
eat.
Hmm.
Desirable women don't eat.
Hmm.
The smaller you are, the
Hmm.
more valuable you
Hmm.
are. So the diet culture hit us over the
Hmm.
head pretty hard. And we're finding that it is the average age for women to go on their first diet is when they were little girls at
Hmm.
the age of 8.
Ooh.
So
Ooh.
I thought it was just me,
Hmm.
but no,
Hmm.
this has been pervasive in
Hmm.
our society
Right.
where young girls get the
Hmm.
message very early that
Hmm.
their value is tied
Hmm.
to how they look.
Hmm. Right. And you look at now, granted I'm an older generation and things have changed a bit, but the dolls that we played with
Yeah.
was Barbie.
Yeah.
Barbie had a waist that was, this big around and bosoms that were, she would have, if she'd been like that in real life, she would have tipped over. But that's what you're looking at. You're looking, okay, well, that must be what Ken values. And, and you looked at Ken. Well, Ken's a beefy guy, and he's got muscles and, or GI Joe or all of those things, the dolls that we had, or they had zero shape at all. They were these kind of weird little sack critters. And, and then you look, even the cartoons, the cartoons that we had, the same thing, very, very slender, usually pretty bosomy. I grew up during the time of Wonder Woman on TV with Linda Carter, and she was a Barbie figure. I mean, that was her. And so you thought that is what people like, and therefore that's what will make you successful.
Yeah. That's exactly it. And that's how I think back to my mom and her friends, like they were always going on diets.
Right.
Like this is like trying to see a fish trying to see water.
Right.
It was just, that's just the way it was. And, I feel for the little girl in me and my little friend and all the young girls out there who got that message that if you want to be seen, if you want to be valued, then you better conform to this ideal that who knows who made up and said that was the way it had to be. And we fell for it hook, line, and sinker until we clued in. And it's been a process for women to clue in. And I think that, we're getting there. We're getting there.
Right. And we were talking before the program started. The nice thing is other companies are cluing in. One of my favorites is Target. When you get their flyers, they have what are in essence normal sized women as models, and even some overweight, some large, I shouldn't say overweight, some larger women, and they might be in swimsuits, because, and I love that. Dove soap, I believe, is one of the first ones
one
that
of my
really,
favorites.
they started with, we're not going to have size 0 models because most women are not size 0, and so, but it's funny because when you look at the ads and it's a average size woman, so that's what, about a size 10 or size 12. Many times the first thought you have is, ooh, she's big. Or, and then you realize, wait a minute, no, that's what I look like. And so I love that advertisers and clothing manufacturers, all of these people have finally figured out that, they need to show real women.
Yeah. Well, women are demanding that we see real women. I mean, because we've been so programmed to expect to see women that we can't even relate to. It's like what you were saying. It's we look at the Target ad and we go, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right.
No.
And she's normal.
Right.
Normal. So I think that we are, as we get used to that and we reprogram our own way of thinking and expectations, then we can say, hey, give us more of that, advertisers, because you're wrong to think that what we expect to see is an unrealistic version of ourselves.
Right.
We don't want that.
Now we just need the people who do television and movies to do the same, because still tends to be, the little twiggy people that are in there, and the big beefy guys. I always love that. But yeah, it is catching up, and of course that I think that is more predominant here in the United States, that, that we still have kind of, the waif thin type of people than maybe some of the, the media in other countries. But yeah, I want to see somebody that looks like me, and that's not going to be a size 0 person.
Right. I think though, what needs to happen is that we need to, and we see this happening, right, where women are now identifying with themselves in a different way. It's like, my identity is not tied to being this unrealistic version of myself. But that's a tough one, Deb, because it's, this is brain science. Like this is stuff that is going on in the very old part of our brain, our habit brain. And so it's no joke that this habit is like etched into our brain. There are neural pathways that are etched in there, and it is a habit for us to think a certain way, to feel typical way, for, we each have our way, our behaviors are typical. So we have think, feel, do habits and patterns that are unconscious. And until we pay attention to what's going on unconsciously, we just think that what we're thinking in this particular moment is all that's relevant. But when we have 60,000 thoughts in a day, can you imagine? All of that is going on subconsciously, and all of that is programming that has been with us for years. And until we realize we have to update our programming, we'll just keep doing the same old thing.
Right. And the programming is, like you said, it's just there. I just went to a business association meeting and they do a buffet. And, I know that there were people who were, just unconsciously, nope, can't take a second piece of meat, can't take that. They need to look for the smaller piece of pie, all of those things. And there really was no reason aside from they're just used to doing it that way.
Yeah. Yes, or not having anything at all, like,
Right.
and not eating in public. I mean,
Right.
that was a big thing. My daughter's halfway through high school. Well, for one of them in grade 9, and then her older sister, she was going into her junior year. We put them into an all-girls school, and one of the first things that they said was, "Mom, you wouldn't believe it, at lunch, the girls were eating." The girls were eating, and I'm like, what?
What do you mean they weren't? So,
because at the other school, when there were boys, the girls were very careful
right.
about what they were eating, how much they were eating. I thought, oh my goodness. So it didn't matter that they grew up with a mother who taught them these things. Like, it's there. So I'll never forget that. I was like, wow. And their experience with being in a high school with all girls and just being free to be girls, do everything like a girl,
Right.
play sports like a girl, learn like a girl, cry like a girl, make jokes like a girl. Like, that was one of the best things that they still talk about. So yeah, I love that they had that opportunity.
Right. Well, I mentioned your book. It's called The Dignity Diet: How to End the Cycle of Cry, Eat, Repeat. And so, it was a great book. I read it yesterday, and, it talks about how these inner voices are there. And we don't, as you said, a lot of times we don't even recognize that they're there. They've been so ingrained in us. It's, you might have been the child that when you reached for seconds, so, no, you learn not to reach for seconds,
Right.
Or you might reach for seconds and somebody, you sure you need that second piece of cake?
Right.
All of those various things. And so, it is first, it's in recognizing that, do we, I'm now, I have had some pretty serious health issues. And so my thought is skewed a bit, because I'm kind of like, you know what, I want a second piece of cake. I'm eating that second piece of cake. But I recognize that is very, that is not typical, and so it's very interesting, because we have to get through that self-sabotaging type of thought. And even like you said, recognizing it's there before we can ever try and do anything about it.
Yes, that is so true. We have to pay attention. Otherwise, we are going through life unconsciously. We're going through life not even aware of our thoughts. We're not deliberately thinking. We're just letting our subconscious mind run the show. And then we wonder why we don't have the life that we want.
Right.
And so really paying attention to how you think. And so I call it the dignity diet, not because some people will say, well, Lynn, diets don't work. Why do you call it that? Well, first of all, diets do work.
Right.
Diets absolutely work. You go on a diet, you restrict enough, you lose weight. That's the job of the diet. What's your job?
Right.
Right? And so when we say diets don't work, we're saying, we expect the diet to do the heavy lifting. And we don't do any self-inquiry as to, well, like, why would I have thought that going on the cookie diet was a good idea in the first place?
Oh, that sounds good to me.
Or the keto diet when it doesn't feel good in my body. So diets absolutely work. And I don't think diets are inherently bad. I think what happens and what is bad and what women have experienced when they go on diets is deprivation and starvation and the belief that some foods are bad or they're bad for eating certain foods. And I'm all about, like you said, you want a second piece of cake, go ahead. If that is aligned with what you want out of your life, then eat that way. But you first have to know what you want.
Right.
So if you want to have a body that is slim and trim and healthy, you want to lower your cholesterol, whatever your goals are, then with dignity, accomplish
Mhm.
that and integrity. Because
Right.
the integrity is like, we could
Mhm.
say all kinds of things and then we say, screw it. Self-sabotage steps in and we
Mhm.
don't understand why.
Right.
So I think
Right.
it's really, really important that we take
Mhm.
responsibility for the way we eat
Mhm.
and the way we treat our bodies.
Mhm.
Because what has happened, in my view, is that women have said, and I've done this, I know exactly what it's like. It's
Mhm.
like we override our bodies, cries
Right.
for our
Mhm.
attention.
Yeah. When your body is saying, "Hello, I'm hungry,"
Uh-huh. And we say,
eat
no,
it.
no. I mean,
Mhm.
I remember,
Mhm.
Deb, thinking, this was back in my 20s. So, the 9-year-old goes on a diet. She
Mhm.
thinks with her little friend that they're not supposed to even eat.
Mhm.
And I can remember when it really occurred to me in my mid-20s, um, getting hungry,
Mhm.
just still doing the same old thing, like
Mhm.
restrictive eating and all that
Right.
stuff, and over efforting with regards
Mhm.
to exercise. And I remember having the thought, darn, I'm hungry.
Mhm.
What? And then disappointed that
Right.
my
Mhm.
body would be hungry. I mean,
Mhm.
this is kind of
Right. Yeah,
crazy
you
stuff.
starved it. Of course it's
We,
going to be hungry. Mhm.
like, I'm pretty smart. I kind of
Mhm.
know stuff.
Mhm.
And yet the stuff that goes through our heads that doesn't really make sense.
Mhm.
And when we're not really willing to look at that and
Mhm.
say, that is so interesting.
Mhm.
Wherever would I have come up with that? Like,
Right.
I didn't even realize I was thinking that. I
Mhm.
never realized that at 9, I got the idea that we shouldn't eat.
Mhm.
I realized that much later
Mhm.
after introspection and seeing that, well, my mind's been doing all
Mhm.
kinds of crazy things
Right.
without my
Mhm.
paying any attention,
Mhm.
right? And so once I uncovered that, I could then begin to challenge
Mhm.
this whole notion of, my body's hungry.
Right.
Maybe I should eat.
Mhm. Right. Well,
And what would happen if I just
yeah.
listened to my
Mhm.
body?
Yeah. And it is about eating right. The second piece of cake might not be a good idea for a variety of reasons. But so many diets, like you said, it's about not eating or eating, 1,000 calories a day,
Yeah.
which nobody can subsist on. Or eating things that have 0 calories, the rice cakes. Oh my Lord. One of the time I ended up on one of those where it was, the doctor says you need to lose X number of pounds. So I ate rice cakes. Yeah. Those were just, or carrots or all of those things that are the negative calorie type of things. And your body gets nothing from those. I mean, there's no nutritional value in them.
No.
So aside from that is part of that I need to be eating type of thing, but you were giving your body nothing. So then it was counterproductive because you were still hungry. And then you felt guilty because you were still hungry.
And all of that because your doctor,
Mm-hmm.
not yours in particular, but
Right.
like
Mm-hmm.
this
Mm-hmm.
happens to women all the time. The doctor will weigh you
Yeah.
and then say, well, you should lose a few. You
Right.
need to
Because
lose some.
they've got a chart
They've
that
got a chart.
says,
And I
Mhm.
I got to tell you, Deb, no one has the right to tell any woman
Right. Mm-hmm.
what to do with her body
Mm-hmm.
in any capacity,
Right.
not even your doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Your doctor can give you the facts, like
Right.
here's the
Yeah.
data.
You're pre-diabetic.
You're
Yeah.
right. Yes.
Mhm.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
then you always get to
Mhm.
decide. And I think until women really take the power
Mhm.
back to decide what they
Right.
want to do,
Mhm.
because no woman has to go on a diet. You
Right.
don't have to go on a
No.
diet. You don't have to
Mhm.
weigh a certain
Mhm.
number. Like this is not about that at all. And I
Right.
think that's where even anti-diet culture
Mhm.
is messing women up, because
Mhm.
anti-diet culture is saying, don't go on a diet. And
Right.
if you go on a diet, you're letting down all of womankind.
Right. Right.
And I'm like,
Mhm.
hold on a second.
Yeah.
Just the flip side of the same
Mhm.
coin. You're
Mhm.
telling women what to do. How
Mhm.
about we just back off
Right.
and
Right.
let women
Mhm.
decide
Mhm.
what they want to do? And if
Right.
a woman wants to go on a diet of Doritos and
Mhm.
French fries and cookies, leave her alone.
Yeah.
And if you want to eat Doritos and
Mhm.
French fries and cookies, don't hide it. Don't
Right.
pretend it.
Mhm.
Just step into
Mhm.
your integrity and saying, this is what I want.
Right. Right.
This is what I
And
want. And I owe no one an explanation.
Right, right. And it's great to know the what might be health concerns with that.
Yes.
So too much fat, whatever all those various things are. But then you make that choice. I
You
mean,
do.
it's and it's not. In a way, it's kind of like addiction. Because you still, you've kind of got that choice. It's bad for you. Smoking. Okay, that's an even better. People who smoke, they know it's bad for them, but they do it anyway.
And they have a right to do that.
Yeah,
They right.
and some of them will get sick, some of them won't. And all these various things. We drive our cars faster than we should, but we have made that choice. And so again, why not make the choice with the food? Okay, I know that if I eat this, it's probably not going to be good for my digestion, but I'm going to do it anyway. I remember after one of the surgeries that I've had, numerous surgeries, I asked the doctor, what do I need to do about my diet? And I love this man. He's the greatest doctor in the world. He looks at me and he says, eat what you want. If it works, that's okay. If it doesn't work, well, maybe don't eat it again. So I make the choice. Well, I like steak, but steak does not like me, so I limit how much I have. So it's all about having that knowledge and then having that power to decide.
And listening to your body tell you steak doesn't work for me. I think it's like people go on these different diets, paleo, keto, vegan, whatever it is, because that's the latest thing. And that's what we should do.
Their friend is on it.
Right. And it worked because they lost weight. Right. So they think, I'm going to go on that diet. And meanwhile, their bodies are screaming like, this isn't good for us.
Right.
And we're like, no, eat it.
Yeah. Because everybody is different.
Yeah.
And so just because you're on a gluten-free diet doesn't mean that I need to be on a gluten-free diet. In fact, maybe I need more gluten. I never have understood what glutens are. But, and so all of those various things, so you have to pay attention to your own body. And if you're craving something, I always find that interesting too. I will crave, and I know that I'm craving protein. A lot of times I'll be craving protein and various things. And what, I've talked to dietitians and they have said, you're low on that. And therefore your body is saying, we need more. Hello, feed us that. And so, it might be that I remember one time I was craving Coca-Cola. I almost never drink sodas anymore. Again, that doesn't go well with me, but I would have killed to have had a Coca-Cola. And I don't know why. I mean, it was just, and I said something on Facebook about it and somebody said, there's something in there that your body was saying you needed. I had one, that was it. I was done. But yeah, it was really kind of bizarre because my body, I just knew I needed that.
Interesting.
Yeah. Very strange.
Yeah, and I think, there are so many women that I work with that aren't able to tell the difference between hunger and like physical hunger or emotional hunger.
Right. Oh yes. Binge eating and things.
Yes. Like and not even binge eating, but it's like, I'm bored right now.
Yeah. So I'm going to eat a bag of potato chips.
Interpreted as I'm hungry. Like this, I need something. Right. And so food is what we turn to feel better. And that's why I call it cry, eat, repeat, because we cry, which means we're not feeling so great. So we eat to feel better. And then we repeat the whole process again and feel guilty and cry some more. Because we're not paying attention to what it is we really need in that moment.
Right.
Because if you're hungry, then chicken and broccoli you'll want it. It's like, chicken and broccoli, I want to eat it. But if it's like, no, I don't feel like that. And I don't feel like that. And
if you're standing in front of the fridge going,
what do I want to eat? You're not hungry.
Then you're probably not hungry.
Right. So the question is, what is it that I'm really hungry for? Like, what do I need in this moment? And that answer isn't always clear. And so can you sit with the feeling? And we think we can't, like on some level, Deb, we think, no, I can't stand this. I have to end this. So I'm just going to eat it, screw it. I'm just going to eat it. As opposed to saying, no, I trust that I can manage this feeling. And it will go away, and it will not kill me.
Right. And you can sidetrack it. Maybe you go and exercise. Maybe you read a book, all those various things.
Yeah. But I think so. Step one really is to start asking yourself, what's really going on? What is it, and sometimes when you sit with it and you allow yourself to kind of go through this process, you'll figure out, well, it's 6:00 at night. I'm not hungry, but I have this feeling. Where did this start? Where did this feeling happen? It could go back to something that happened in the morning, threw you off, maybe with your boss or a friend, or it could be something that happened a week ago.
Right.
And it's been sitting there and sitting there. And so one of the first things to notice is how you are feeling. Because if you've got a feeling of malaise in any sense of, like, I'm off. I don't feel right. Something isn't quite right. And food's not the answer. And then just trusting. And this is not easy to do. I get it.
Oh yeah. Because again, it's a habit.
It is a habit, right? And it's like, so people will sometimes say, oh, easy for you to say, Lynn. I'm like, no, this is not easy. This is hard work. Working on ourselves and improving ourselves, our minds and our bodies. This isn't easy. This isn't brain or rocket science. It's harder than that.
Right.
This is hard.
Yeah, because we have X number of years behind us saying this is what you do.
Right. And the programming is there. Now, the good news is there's nothing wrong with you. It's just a habit. It's your way of dealing with boredom. It's your way of dealing with disappointment. It's your way of dealing with sadness. And so it's just a clue that, hey, my body is telling me that I need to be taken care of somehow. And food is not going to create permanent change. It's just going to delay the inevitable. I'm just going to start crying all over again. Right?
Yeah, because the whatever it was still exists.
It still exists. So we get that brief respite from the pain. I mean, I had a client once say to me, Lynn, when I sit down and eat for that 5 minutes out of the whole day or the whole morning is the first time that I feel like I'm at peace, like my mind shuts up and the voices stop and I can eat and feel good. But that doesn't last. And then the voices come back. And so we're shutting up the voices with, with food, but maybe those voices need some attention. Maybe those voices need some redirection.
Right. Well, and redirection, like maybe meditation, whatever. I always like the people that they have their first cup of coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
And they sit and they think about their day. Do they really need that cup of coffee to sit and think about their day?
Yeah, and that's the habit, right? And not that it's a bad habit. Like if that works for you, then you do it.
Right.
But it's just like taking a look at how you want to live your life and is it working for you?
Right.
That's really the question I always
ask. If sitting and having your cup of coffee works, that's okay.
Right. Always asking, is this working for me? What's not working for me? And just being curious, because I think the last thing we need to do is beat ourselves up. The crying and the eating and the repeating is just because we're beating ourselves up instead of saying, hold on, slow down, everybody. What's going on in my brain? What is because I often, liken it to, the parents go away and the kids have a party. So when you're not paying attention to what's going on in your mind, when you're not staying conscious, then your thoughts are going to have a mind of their own. And they're going to go off and do things that that just don't work for you.
Right. Well, and, and then they look back at those voices, those things that people said, and they change it. It wasn't, somebody, a doctor, great example, it wasn't the doctor saying, hey, be a good idea for you to lose 10 pounds because they were worried about your cholesterol or something like that.
Yeah.
It turns into, you fat slob, you need to lose, and you put a different tone, you put a different connotation, all of these things. And we do that with all of those voices. It wasn't the teacher saying maybe you need to study a little more. Somehow that becomes the teacher saying you were stupid. all these things.
Yes. Well, and here's another trick that we do. And I'm just talking about women here, not that men don't have tricks up their sleeves, but so I'm not picking on women, but with women. And I once had a conversation with my client a client who said, my husband thinks I'm fat. I said, well, okay, where's that coming from? And she said, well, I asked him if the pants I was wearing to a party that we went to on Saturday night, if he thought that the pants made my ass look fat.
Right. Because that's always a really good question to be asking somebody.
Right? That is right. And so he was like hesitating, and finally she wouldn't take his answer of, you look great, honey, I love you, let's go to this party. And so she ended up having a fight with her husband, lousy time at the party. And I said, what was the purpose of that? Like, what is it that you really needed to know? And was your husband ever going to have an answer that would satisfy you? No.
And he's thinking, what did I do wrong?
What I do? Can I say there is no right answers here? It's a setup.
Because if he says we need to go, what do you mean? What are you rushing me? He's lost the second that question comes out of her mouth.
And it's how we give our emotional responsibility, our emotional work, we hand it over to other people to make us feel better. It's like, I feel lousy right now. These pants are feeling a little tight. I think I'll just pick a fight with my husband and make him make me feel better.
I'm going to make him as miserable as I am.
Yes. I'm going to test him to see. And I'm like, well, were the pants tight? Have you gained some weight? Like, what are the facts here? Yes, I've gained weight. Yes, so the pants are tight. They don't fit like they used to. Okay. Let's deal with that.
Do you just need to buy new pants?
You need to buy new pants, or what is it that you want to do? Are you okay with your size? Like, what is it that you want? What is it that's getting you tripped up? Why are we turning it? Like, I hear women who still want to blame their moms. My mom used to tell me that, if I didn't lose weight, I'd never get a man.
Never get a boy.
Oh my goodness. Like that. Oh. And I'm like, where's your mom now? And what is she saying to you now? Because
she's been dead for 20 years.
Even if not, it's like, you're a grown-up woman. You get to make all the rules right now. How do you want to be in your life? How do you want to show up in your life?
And why make yourself miserable to meet someone else's expectations? A friend of mine was posting on Facebook a week or so ago, and she has struggled with her weight, and what she thinks it should be, all these various things. And, and she's not a size 2, but she's also not somebody that is obese. She's average, she's
normal.
And and she at one point had dieted and got down to itsy bitsy. She was absolutely miserable. She said, but it was this thing where, she felt like that was what people expected of her. They, all these various things. And she said, she was miserable. She couldn't eat what she wanted. She couldn't do what she wanted. Her energy level, of course, was so different because she wasn't getting enough food feeding her body to do what she wanted to do. And so she said, I finally decided it wasn't worth it. And, and then she said something that I thought was, it was important in there too. But she said, my husband loves me no matter what. So I thought, that's good. So he had never said you need to lose weight or anything. But when she said, I just, this is the way I'm going to be for me. I thought, good for you.
Yeah. And we say my husband loves me no matter what, and that's lovely, and it's so important. But I always ask, do you love you no matter what?
Yeah.
Do you? Because it sounds like maybe not.
I think there might have still been some struggling with some things, but and I just, that was one of that was kind of like, does this make me look fat? I was not going there. I was not going to say anything. But it's, it was interesting, and especially that she was being so public about it.
Yes.
She said, and basically she said, if you don't like the way I look, too bad.
Yeah.
And that's your problem, which
And
that is, if
yes.
and she said, because I'm happy, I get to eat what I want. And she did say, I've talked to my doctor, my blood sugar is good, all of those various things that, and she
Yep.
said, I'm just, and we see people like that, well, I'm big boned.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
all these, it's, how do you feel about yourself? If you feel
Right.
like you want to be littler, okay. But if you feel like, that second piece of cake, I'm going to go for it, fine.
Yes. The question has to be, and I don't think we ask it enough, is
Mhm.
what do I want? And
Right.
I feel nothing
Mhm.
but compassion for the woman you talk about,
Mhm.
for myself as a 9-year-old in
Mhm.
my 20s and
Right.
30s, where, I mean, we didn't really know
Mhm.
better, but once
Right.
we know better,
Mhm.
then, well, I mean, I could say we have a responsibility to do better,
Mhm.
but no, we don't.
Mhm.
We still get to do
Right.
whatever we
Mhm.
want.
Mhm.
And I think that is so freeing
Mhm.
for women to
Right.
really get that.
Mhm.
Because we hear women say all the time, I don't care what she thinks. I don't care what they think. All that matters is how I think. And you can
Mhm.
hear in the tone that that ain't actually true.
Right, right.
That
They're
you're just, it's
still
like,
looking,
this
are
is
they seeing me walk down the hall?
right, right. There's like some bravado there. There's some positioning
Mhm.
and a stance, as opposed to, I love them and
Mhm.
I don't care what they think about me.
Mhm.
Like that
Right.
is such a more
Mhm.
peaceful place to
Right.
come from, because if you really don't care, then there is
Mhm.
no residual
Right.
bad
Right.
feelings or anything. You
Mhm.
you feel pretty
Mhm.
good
Right.
and you feel good about them
Yeah.
as well as
Yeah.
yourself.
And if they're the type of people that are just gonna pick nits,
Yeah.
nitpick, do all of those things, then maybe you don't need them in your life.
Well,
That is of course a different thing. But but I find it interesting how, and you talk about this in the book, how we as women don't support other women. We're the ones looking, going, well, that skirt's, and I'm guilty of this too. That skirt's a little tight on her.
yeah.
And it was funny, just a little bit ago, I saw, these on Facebook, where one of the Kardashians, one of the whoever's, had been toe shamed. We fat shame people. She
Oh,
had worn sandals, and I mean, she's like 20, and somebody was like, oh my God, you shouldn't wear sandals, your feet are ugly. Okay, first of all, why would somebody say that? I mean, that just baffles me to start with. But we just really jump into, let's say something negative about this person, and I'm sure some of it in many cases is jealousy. We've got this nice big computer screen here that's going to protect us, so we can say whatever we want. But and maybe you didn't like how her toes looked. Maybe that dress was just a wonderful dress, so you say something nice. We don't have to go to saying something negative.
right. And maybe we don't have to say anything at
Right.
all,
Yeah.
because I think that we think we are supposed to
Right.
comment on a woman's body. If she's lost weight, we should say, oh, you look
Yes, you
great.
look great.
And
Mm-hmm.
actually, no. I
Mm-hmm.
think that commenting on a woman's looks and her body,
Mm-hmm.
or anything about how she looks
Mm-hmm.
at this point, and maybe the pendulum will swing back, but I think right now it's a bit of a it's a hot button,
Mm-hmm. Right.
because
Oh yeah, because it could be taken as
that's right.
as sexually aggressive. I mean, all sorts of things.
All
Mm-hmm.
kinds of things. And I think that if we were to just be able to give women some
Mm-hmm.
space
Right.
to just be who they
Mm-hmm.
are. And I think, to your point, that women can be unkind to women,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. But in defense of women, we've been trained to do that.
Right. Oh
Right?
yeah.
We've been trained, like
Mm-hmm.
diet culture says, survival of the
Mm-hmm.
thinnest.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
so it's
not
like,
fittest,
okay,
thinnest.
I got
Mm-hmm.
to be thinner than her. I got
Mm-hmm.
to be better than her
Mm-hmm.
so I can get the
Mm-hmm.
prize, whatever the prize is
Right.
deemed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly it's the man.
Mm-hmm.
And I love men, but men have played into this.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we talk about this whole psychology and dynamic,
Mm-hmm.
this is a societal problem.
Mm-hmm.
This is a problem this isn't a woman's problem.
Right.
This is a societal
Mm-hmm.
problem, because men, you have daughters and you
Right.
don't want your
Mm-hmm.
daughters to be, to grow up the
Mm-hmm.
way so many women
Right.
have. And so I think that, and I see it in men, have
Mhm.
really, come around in our,
Mhm.
like even conversations with my husband where he'll say, well, like, we've had no idea this, you could see all this stuff that's happening now
Mhm.
with men are going like, whoa, when we had
Mhm.
no idea.
Mhm.
And it is, and either did we as women, we
Mhm.
had no idea what
Mhm.
we were buying into
Right.
all the time.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah,
but
it's
we
and
learned.
it's funny, we're having this discussion in March, and this is Women's History Month.
Mhm.
And I just thought that was, this is a very appropriate discussion to be having because of the history and the baggage that we are bringing. But it was interesting. I mentioned earlier that I had gone to a business association meeting today, and they had a young lady from local high school read something that she wrote about empowering women.
Mhm.
And and she started by saying, men you need to pay attention to. But it really was, it was very cool. And I'm hoping that that they post it so that we can read it again, and all sorts of things, because I thought that high school girl gets it. And hopefully she will then carry that into her professional life, if she has children, raising them, because it's not just how you raise your daughters, it's how you raise your sons.
Of course.
All of those various things. And maybe she doesn't have kids, but but yeah, how does she carry that on with her? Because it's, in some ways it is getting better, but in some ways it is just the same old.
Yeah, and I think unfortunately it has become like it's become territorial. It's
Right.
like us against them
Hmm.
or them against them
Right.
because they don't want to know,
Hmm.
and that whole thing. And it's like, oh my goodness, it sounds so trite, but can't we all just get along for the
Right. Hmm.
sake of
Hmm.
all of us?
Right.
Like we all benefit.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I've heard some men say, women are just being, and the pendulum is swung too far and all of
Hmm.
that, and it's an overcorrection and all of that talk. And I'm like, okay, but how does that help the conversation?
Right. Hmm.
How is this helping the
Hmm.
conversation? Because clearly we need to talk about some
Hmm.
things. We need to
Right.
change some things. And
Hmm.
I can't change things in my family without my husband.
Hmm.
Women can't change things in society
Right.
without men. Like
Hmm.
we need each other. And
Hmm.
so I think that's a very healthy way to look
Hmm.
at it.
Right. Yeah. And it has been interesting to watch, and especially because of the whole Me Too movement.
Yeah.
And certainly, there are changes that need to be made. I don't think that anybody can argue with that, but it has to be a group effort,
Yeah.
to be making those changes. It is nice that women are stepping up and saying, hey, we need to do this. But I saw a picture the other day of some movie star, a woman, and she had worn a dress to some big thing that had women's names embroidered on it. That's great,
Yep.
but what did it do? Was there, and it didn't even really make people talk about it, besides just saying, well, hey, that's kind of an interesting dress.
Oh, was that the one? Was that Natalie Portman
Yes, it
wearing the dress
was. It
with
was.
all
Yeah.
the names of women
Women
directors who
producers. Yeah.
hadn't been
Hmm.
nominated
Right.
or who
Right.
had made
And,
movies?
and obviously it got people talking about it,
Yeah.
but you have to do more than talk about it. And that's where all of this ties in. It's, I always say at the start of the program, it's our personal and our business, and we want to improve that. Improving this personally will help us improve from a
Oh my
business
gosh.
standpoint
Oh
also.
yes, absolutely. I mean, so much of what we carry in our
Mhm.
bodies and the struggle that we
Mhm.
have with our bodies is reflected not just on
Right.
our bodies,
Mhm.
but in our families, in our
Mhm. Mhm.
businesses,
Mhm.
in our relationships, because it's always there in the
Mhm.
back of our minds.
Right.
I always say, if you want to lose weight on your body, you got to
Mhm.
lose the weight in your head first.
Yes. Mhm.
That's where
Mhm.
things are super heavy.
Mhm.
That weight's got to go.
Mhm.
Whether you decide to lose it on your body or not, that's entirely up
Mhm.
to you, but you're never going to get peace of
Right.
mind with all that stuff
Mhm.
weighing you down in your head.
Mhm. Right. And then it carries into the business environment. So when you're thinking, oh, nobody really likes me because I'm
Right.
overweight,
Yeah.
whether you are or not, then that little voice transitions into, I'm not smart enough to do my job. I'm never going to get promoted. I mean, all
Right.
of those things too, you know,
Yep.
that whole negative self-talk
Yep.
when it goes, you know, and we're, you know, it'd be nice if we could just flip that little switch, but it doesn't work that way.
Yep.
But it's an ongoing process. And as you say in your book, and as we've been talking about, a big part of it is being aware of that.
Yep.
Why is that happening? And what do you want to happen? What do you want the outcome to be?
What do you want the outcome to be? So if you want the outcome to be your business, like if you want to build a successful business,
Right.
and you really decide that you
Mhm.
want that, then the only thing that can stop you is your mind.
Right.
It's not going to be your body. It's not
Mm-mm.
going to be how you look on
Right.
camera. It's
Mhm.
going to be all the stuff that you
Mhm.
come up with in your mind, all the excuses
Mhm.
that we make
Right.
to not have to go
Mhm.
put ourselves out
Mhm.
there. We say, oh, well, whatever the excuse, and I say that, I mean it. We make excuses. I have made excuses and they have held
Right.
me back.
Mhm.
And then we blame, we say,
Mhm.
it's like, it's not me making
Right.
excuses. It's
Mhm.
because this happened or that
Mhm.
happened. And no, it's none of those
Mhm.
things.
Right.
It's
Right.
what we're doing in our
Mhm.
minds.
Yeah. You know, and it is, it's those little conversations that or big conversations that we're
Yep.
having that are holding us back.
Yep.
You know, and you know, yeah, it can't be, as you said, it can't be an excuse. You
Mhm.
know, I eat because, or
Right.
I didn't get this project because, you know, you have to
Right.
recognize what is going on
Yep.
and what can I do to fix it. And yeah, and there are times where you might need to get help,
Yep.
you know, and you know, where you have someone who is a coach, and we'll get to that in a moment.
Right.
You know, or maybe it is that, you know, you might need to, you know, to go to a doctor, to go to a dietitian, to go back to school, you know,
Yep.
whatever it is, you might not be able to do it on your own, and there's
Right.
absolutely nothing that is wrong with asking for help. But again, we've been
Absolutely.
trained in many cases, you know, you don't do that, you know, it means you're not smart enough. We've
Mm,
talked about that on the program a lot, where small business owners frequently will
mm,
not ask for help, especially when we're just starting out, because we think we have to be able to do it all. Well, I'm
mm.
sorry, I can't write a contract. I don't know how to do this. You know, all sorts of things. And if I want to be successful, I have to ask for help.
Right. Absolutely. And at the end of the day, the thing you don't need is a cookie
Right.
because you deserve it or you've
Mhm.
earned it, all
Right.
that stuff. Like
Mhm.
notice the stuff that your mind, it
Mhm.
sounds good in your mind.
Mhm.
Like I worked hard today. I deserve this extra
Mhm.
helping of whatever it is.
Right.
That's just another lie that we tell
Mhm.
ourselves to let ourselves off the hook.
Yep.
If we say that getting in shape is what we want,
Mhm.
and do the things that you
Mhm.
need to do to get in shape. Otherwise, stop talking
Mhm.
about it. Have the extra helping.
Right.
Eat whatever you
Mhm.
want because you're entitled to do that.
Mhm.
But stop making yourself crazy
Right.
by saying you want this
Mhm.
and then you do another. So
Mhm.
with the two things, so you're out of
Right.
integrity.
Right.
So
We self-sabotage before we ever even get going on it.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the people that, you know, you know, I've lost 5 pounds so I can have a
If I
cookie.
can have, yeah,
Uh, you know, if maybe, but you know, it's
so
like,
much more
no.
powerful to say, I want a cookie, damn it, and I'm going to
Mhm.
eat it.
Yeah.
It's just that.
Yeah.
Just go
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I just, yeah. And not, I deserve it
Yeah.
or I earned it.
Yeah.
I want a cookie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to eat a cookie.
That's right. That's
Now,
right.
eating the whole box of cookies, maybe not so much. Darn Girl Scouts.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Oh, cool. Well, oh my gosh, Lynn, we are almost at the top of the hour, and we didn't even talk about how you work with business professionals, because you do that also. But tell us a little bit more about what you do.
So I work with mostly high achieving women
Mhm.
who are, whether they're lawyers or business owners who in the process of building their businesses,
Mhm.
building their lives, struggle with their weight and their
Mhm.
bodies and the stories they tell about themselves
Mm.
and how they don't realize that their bodies or
Mhm.
what the relationship with their
Mhm.
bodies, because it's never your body's fault and it's
Right.
not about the food, how that is getting in the way, the stories
Mhm.
we tell about our bodies. So I work with women who, once we uncover all that stuff,
Mhm.
weight loss becomes a natural
Right.
consequence
Mhm.
of doing that inner work,
Mhm.
so that your business success becomes a natural consequence of lightening the load in your
Mhm.
mind. It really is quite fascinating.
Mhm. Oh, I bet.
Counterintuitive as it sounds,
Mhm.
that's kind of how it works.
Mhm. Right. Well, how do people find you and connect with you?
You can find me at lineleoff.com. Everything is right there. And I would really love to hear from anyone who might just want to ask me some questions
Mhm.
about what we talked about.
Perfect.
The Dignity Diet is on Amazon. And I
Mhm.
so appreciate that you gave me this opportunity to speak to your audience, Deb. You're awesome. You asked
Well,
great questions, a great conversation.
it's been so much fun. And it's been a delight. And I've been watching the sun going in the sun.
I mean, yeah, I know,
Yes,
right?
you're like leaning sideways. Um, but
Yes,
it's just we have so much fun having these conversations
yeah,
that we forget all of this. And I always say, I have to set a timer because we could keep going on this.
yes,
And we really could, because to me this is fascinating to
yes.
to talk through all of this and so obviously we have to have you on again, because I think this is something that, as we said, yes, we're focusing on women,
Yeah.
but for the men, you need to be paying attention to this too, because what are you doing? Are you the one telling the woman, excuse me, you're looks a little fat in that,
Yeah.
or thinking, oh my God, I don't even know what to say, and all these various things, and more importantly, how are you talking with your daughters? I mean, that is one of the key things. How are we raising our children? Because we're
Mm,
hoping that it's getting better every time.
yes.
Great.
Oh, you're right. There's so much. We could keep going.
I
And so
know.
I would love to come back
Yes, we'll do
anytime.
it again. We'll do it again.
All right.
And until then, I'm Deb Creer. I've been having an absolutely fascinating time talking with Lin Eleoff, and everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.